The Cowboys OT is brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys. And by Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com.
44-19 as week 2 of the 2024 season goes in favor of the New Orleans Saints, who absolutely run all over the Cowboys defense, making AT&T Stadium in Arlington look more like a leisurely stroll down Bourbon Street in the streets of New Orleans. They made their own house into AT&T Stadium. Welcome in to Cowboys OT. We've got Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans. It was not pretty for the Cowboys as they fall to 1-1, but we're going to break it down for you here over the next hour or so. But Barry, I'll start with you. Where do you start with a loss like this? It really could have been offense, defense. Both deserve a little bit of the blame.
Yeah, because the only phase that showed up to me was special teams today. I mean, when you look at it offensively and defensively, there was a lot left to be desired out there. I'm going to go ahead on the defensive side of the football. You got basically bullied out there in the trenches. When you talk about the pressure that they were able to put on Derek Carr, or lack of pressure out there, because he had all day out there to throw the football and pick apart this secondary. And then you talk about the ground game. Kamara just went off. It seemed like he wasn't getting touched until he was at least 5 or 6 yards down the field, at least falling forward for another 2-3 yards. He had his way with this defense. I think he had 4, maybe 5 touchdowns out there. He had a career day. But to me, it was just explosive plays that really put this defense, in a pickle out there. Derek Carr had all day back there to throw the football, and when you do that, that secondary, you can't cover for long. Too many explosive plays out there by this defense, and they've got to play better going forward.
They were well balanced. You got to just take your hat off to Clint Kubiak, the young offensive coordinator. They were well balanced. They gave you enough of Kamara early in the game so that when they had the explosive plays, they took off. I mean, when you look at a team that is shooting on all cylinders, 44 points this week, 47 last week, hats off to the offensive coordinator.
They're just playing a game of guess who. I don't know the last time y'all played a game guess who, but that's exactly what they were playing on defense. And offensively, it just wasn't enough. Dallas has to try to find a way that if you lose one of your main contributors offensively, like they did today in Jake Ferguson, he did not suit up, where do you turn? It can't just be CeeDee Lamb. You have to have something on the ground game as well. And if you don't have a balanced offense, then you're putting Dak in a situation where he's now forcing the ball, which is exactly what happened today. These guys already touched on it defensively. The guys just didn't show up. They just got beat up. They were all over the place. They were trying to guess. They were choosing the wrong gaps. They were overflowing. They didn't know who to guard. It was a mess. It was bad. A lot of lessons to learn. Luckily, it happened early on in the season.
Yeah, you're right. There's a long way to go to improve upon it, but in order to improve upon it, you got to go back and you got to review the film, and that's what we're going to do here. The Cowboys led the all-time series 18-13 with New Orleans, their first meeting since 2021. The Saints start on offense, and it didn't take long to get those weapons involved. Derek Carr to Chris Olave, 34 yards, and he takes it all the way down to the Dallas 5-yard line. That's where Alvin Kamara gets his first touches of the day, and he rumbles his way in for a 7-0 lead. Dallas would answer with a field goal, but 3 points won't help when the Saints strike like this. Rashid Shaheed downfield. He had 70-plus yards in week 1. He's got 70 on this play alone, Barry.
Yeah, it's a classic cover 2 beater right there. Carson did a great job funneling him into the safety, but Hooker, you can't let the guy get on your toes like that. Once he gets on his toes, a great dime by Derek Carr, touchdown Saints.
Another Dallas drive would have the Cowboys in the red zone. Dak from the 12-yard line hands it off to Brandon Cooks. He has nowhere to go, bringing up 3rd down and long. On the next play, Dak scanning, runs out of time. He's sacked, and Dallas has to settle for another field goal. That allows for New Orleans to keep their foot on the gas. Alvin Kamara again. This time, it's a receiving touchdown. On the screenplay, he finds a seam. It's not even just a seam. It's more like a highway, and he takes it 57 yards to the house, Nate.
Yeah, they lost sight of him right there. I think my man Kendricks is supposed to have him, but that's too much speed right there for Kendricks.
And there's a lot to break down with Alvin Kamara. He had 115 yards on the ground, 65 through the air. Dallas desperate for points. CeeDee Lamb says, I got you guys. Don't worry about it. He takes it to the house from 65 yards out. His first touchdown of the 2024 season. And finally, a Dallas highlight, Isaiah.
We got something positive going here, Kyle. You finally got the ball out here to CeeDee Lamb on the sideline on a corner route. He's able to make the guys missed, and then he just does what he does. He's the human highlight reel.
Unfortunately, that was his last grab of the game. It was short-lived for the Cowboys. On the next drive, Alvin Kamara again, third touchdown of the first half as they keep on rolling offensively. Dak and Dallas trying to find their rhythm. He tries to find Brooks, who falls down in the middle of his route. The pass is intercepted, and then a sloppy return 45 yards back puts New Orleans back in striking distance as the Saints defense continues to hold Dallas at bay. Not long after that, Derek Carr sneaks his way into the end zone, making it 35-13 Saints. The 35 points for New Orleans in the first half, tied for the most ever allowed by a Dallas Cowboys defense in team history through one half of play. Dallas kicked a couple field goals to make it 35-19, but midway through the third, this thing was over. The ground game couldn't be stopped. Alvin Kamara and company scored his fourth touchdown of the day, a 40-burger for New Orleans, and of course the Cowboys fall in week 2, 44-19, as we take a look at some of the final stats brought to you by Miller Lite. It was not pretty for Dallas, and we've got plenty more reaction coming from AT&T Stadium. When we come back, we're going to hear from head coach Mike McCarthy. What does he think needs to be the first improvement going into week number 3?
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys fall at AT&T Stadium, 44-19, the final score against the New Orleans Saints. In week number 2, New Orleans had over 430 yards of total offense. The Cowboys did what they could, but just couldn't finish drives. Let's hear from the play caller and head coach Mike McCarthy following the loss.
I think, going back to my comments during the week, I felt like we were playing a playoff caliber team. I think you look at the preparation coming into it, look at their games last year, which obviously you do in week 2. And they played well last week. Disappointed, very disappointed in the way we played, from the top down, starting myself here. The finish, particularly, as far as the different battles as you go through the game, the run game battle, we didn't win that on either side. Obviously the turnover battle, they won that. So I thought they did a better job finishing plays, and they hit their big plays. I think we were -3 at halftime. I don't know what it ended up, but we needed to keep pace. Complimentary football. Defense was struggling obviously, throughout the first 3 quarters. And we need to score touchdowns in the red zone. And we had some execution challenges that. They were better than we were. So if we could have kept pace with them and, kept that to a 1-score, possible 2-score game, then, you come down a stretch and you're competing to win. So, you need adversity games like this. You definitely don't want to ever perform like this. They played well. Give them credit. But yeah, I think like all of us, we're disappointed with our performance today. But the true reality is we'll take the film tomorrow. That'll tell the complete story. There's no burn the tape, I'll sit here, so we don't, that's not the way I've ever operated. So we will take a hard look at it because we all need to learn from it. We got a new defensive staff, and this is the first time, we were on cloud 9 last week, and now we got punched, and no differently offensively. We did not handle the adversity part of it to keep pace with the way the game was going. So, and more importantly, our young players, they need to learn from this experience. So that's where we are. We're 1-1.
Clarence Hill, before we start telling, Clarence Hill, All City, Dallas. With all due respect, the offense needing to keep pace was a theme that was the last time we were at AT&T Stadium against Green Bay. I hate bringing back Green Bay, but how do you explain the lack of resistance on defense? You couldn't stop them on third down. You couldn't stop run. You kept giving up big plays in the passing game.
Well, I don't think, the last time we played here has anything to do with it. I understand the convenience of the criticism, and obviously I'm on the other side of it. So, but yeah, I think, we've had changes on defense. Some of the changes we made was to put the emphasis on the run defense. Was not evident today. I mean, no doubt about it. They got the ball on our perimeter, time and time again. And they're, in the second level. So, once again, it's I got to quit saying, we need to play much better. I need to coach better. And, you never want to play that way, especially at home.
So Mike McCarthy taking some accountability of what happened in AT&T Stadium today. Isaiah, I'll start with you on that. When it comes to the offense, it wasn't pretty all the way through, but they had opportunities in the first half. They just couldn't finish drives. What do you want to see more from Mike McCarthy, that offense, in order to try and take a step forward next week?
More diversity. I think that's what I would look for. You know, we were talking about it on the first word in terms of it just lacking explosive plays. And you had some plays that you obviously left out there. You obviously had a turnover that was to Jalen Brooks that turned into an interception that really would have been a big play for the Cowboys offense. But you still don't get the sense that outside of CeeDee Lamb that you're going to get a big play out of anybody. Like, I don't get that sense. If it's either CeeDee Lamb or it's going to be a very methodical drive. And I think that you have to try to find a way to not only have some consistency running the ball on the ground, but you got to get some explosive plays from some more people than just 88.
Yeah, you're going to have to get everybody involved. And to me, what stood out the most, and Mike McCarthy said it himself, is when you're 0-3 in the red zone, I mean, that to me could have been the swinging part of the game. You look at it, if you're able to at least get one or maybe two touchdowns out of your red zone appearances, then that could have made the game a lot closer. I mean, you could have double dipped going into halftime, scored that touchdown, then got the ball coming out of the half, and made it a lot closer of a game. But they weren't able to capitalize with their opportunities in the red zone, and that's what I got to see from this offense. You got to take advantage of that. We understand your defense is going to be what it is. You're going to get pressure on the quarterback, and I'm sure they're going to bounce back from this performance. But offensively, you got to do your job as well, and you got to take it home when you get into the red zone.
The bottom line is, and I'm with you 100%, Isaiah, is that when our guys were one-on-one, we did not win. With the zone beat, even with the kid running down, number 22 running down, Malik Hooker was supposed to have him, but it was one, and he took off. He did what he had to do. We had Zeke coming out of the backfield 3 times, open. If all they had to do was make a man miss, we'd have had a first down, continued drive. Each time they tackle him, either for no gain or 2-yard gain at most. We got to make better plays as players. I think the coaches are calling the right players, but we have to execute.
And that's exactly what it comes down to, is execution. You saw it a couple times, the Jalen Brooks play where he ran a nice route, executed the route, but then he falls down and it leads to an interception. That's how close the margins are whenever you're playing in a game like this. And like Mike McCarthy said, against a playoff caliber team. New Orleans is a team that's been tearing it up. They've now won 6 of their last 7 games, and they've put up some massive numbers offensively, 40+ in their last 3. So not a slouch of an opponent by any stretch, but it was a step back from week 1. It was also a step back on the defensive side. Micah Parsons held in check in week 2. We'll hear from Micah when we come back with more Cowboys OT.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
More Cowboys OT here from the Star in Frisco following the Cowboys' loss to the Saints. Micah Parsons at times was shown on the Fox NFL TV copy of frustration, being held in check not only by the offensive lineman for New Orleans, but also by some tight ends at times. Here's what he had to say following the loss and possibly how they could get better going into the week.
We're trying to pull down. At the end of the day, we got to be aggressive. We got to create penetration and do a much better job tackling. I'm trying to ride the guys, get everyone to calm down. Let's focus in. Like, we're here. Like, this is adversity. We need to hit this wall. We need to get better. Don't shy from it. Now, how is the rest of the family going to look? You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy that I get to see tomorrow. Well, God willing, I see tomorrow, because there's a lot of things that I believe that need to get fixed.
Obviously, you'll want to see the tape, but when you think about the obvious things that can lead to a tough outing like this, whether it's scheme, talent, effort, what's the most obvious thing that jumps out?
To me, it had nothing to do with the scheme. I thought it was him called a pretty good game. Now, there was a man play we happened in the screen, but at the end of the day, that's life. You know what I'm saying? You always want, no play's going to be a perfect call. But at the end of the day, I believe that we just got outplayed. I don't think, whoever played on that field, everyone didn't play to 100%. That's just me being accountable and, saying the truth. Everyone, we all got to play better. There's some plays I wish I had back, just schematically things that I wish I was in a different position. But, you know what I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, I believe I'll still go out there and give 100. I just feel like, there's a lot of BS into that.
Did they do what you saw them do on tape against Carolina, or were they doing something differently this time?
I would say how they blocked me was different, but no, we knew they was going to run out the ball. We knew they was going to be aggressive in the run. They stayed true to it. But, I think today we the one that got bent.
Why don't you think you guys are able to have more success getting after Derek Carr?
Well, they did a great job schematically, right? Everything was short, everything was quick, and if it wasn't, it was maxed up two-man routes, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I also thought it was different, which was a creative way, was instead of, having a lineman blocking and max of protection with the chip, they kind of just sent the chipper lineman, then sent the running back to cut. So, I was going through a maze almost. So, I thought that was creative, a new way, things that I didn't see. So now this is an opportunity for me to see a creative look that I haven't seen before and get better from it.
Micah, how concerning is it the last two home games have been the way they have?
Last year's last year. We're in a new year this year. It's a new room that I'm with, new guys. But I wouldn't say I'm concerned right now just because it's so early in the year. We can get so much better. Like I said, I don't think a lot of guys play with 100%. And we didn't do our job to the best of our standard. And the standard wasn't held today.
You talk about
Let's take a look at some of the defensive stats from the loss for the Cowboys. The sack wasn't there. The pressures weren't there. It wasn't even close to the amount of efficiency we saw from the defensive side in their win against Cleveland in Week 1. They struggled to find out where the football was going, who was going to be the next target to get it, and then how to adjust from there. Back with Barry Church and Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Youmans. Guys, Micah Parsons early in the week talked about taking a leadership role on this defense. Mike Zimmer has given him the keys to this defense. If you were in a leadership role in this unit after the showing that they just had at home, giving up 44 points to New Orleans, what would be your message to the team?
Man, you got to hold everybody accountable in this situation, from the star player all the way down to, the scout team guy out there. Everybody has got to be held accountable for this loss because it took all 11 for you guys to get, what happened out there for you today. I mean, when you look at it, this defense, they got bullied, like I said earlier today. On the trenches, they got bullied. In the secondary, they got bullied as well. So everybody has to hold themselves accountable. Go in there, look at the film, break things down and see what you can do better. I mean, there's one-on-one battles that I'm sure Micah Parsons would have went out there and loved to win. There's one-on-one battles that Malik Hooker wish he would have went out there and won. But you got to hold everybody accountable, look at the tape, break it down, and try to get better for next week.
And this is not a film where you go into separate rooms of linebackers, the defensive backs, and the line. You look at this film together. And you take that criticism and you learn from it. Like Micah Parsons said, he hadn't seen a simple block where the tackle, where the tight end blocks now and the tackle come around. Yeah. He may haven't seen it before, now you've seen it. What you got to do is fight across that right there and stop that guy from getting to the outside. I'll tell you how to defeat that. So it's simple things that you can do to help your team. But first of all, you got to be able to take the criticism itself. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about Clint Kubiak early in the show and how much credit he ends up needing to get. Why does Dallas have so much trouble defensively against Kyle Shanahan coaching trees and the offensive schemes that they have?
Well, I would have to say that when you look at those schemes, they do a lot of messing with your eyes. And Marinelli used to tell me back in the day, you see a little, you see a lot, you see a lot, you see a little. So that means basically if you're not focused on your keys and what your responsibilities are, you can get confused with all the motions, the stretches, the blocking schemes they have, guys coming from out of nowhere, pulling guards. You got to understand exactly where you fit in those type of schemes. And you can't be looking at the broad picture. You got to trust that your teammate's going to do his job, and you got to do your job as well. Because if you don't, that's what happens to you. You get gashed, you get explosive plays out there. So to me, it just comes down to the little things. And that system that they run right there with all those motions and pulling guards, it's tough for a linebacker and a defensive lineman because there's a lot that you can see out there, but you just got to focus on your responsibilities and what you have to do.
Just remember, they will take a tight end and block down on you. They will take a running back and block down on you. They will take a wide receiver and block down on you. But your keys still the same. You got to fight over the top to make that thing go back inside. Your keys stay the same. Little focuses. That is what counts. You have to stay with what you know to help your defense, and you'll be okay.
Alignment, assignment, right?
Yes.
It's every day. It always goes back to those fundamentals, and of course Dallas struggled in that aspect today. When we come back, we're going to hear from Dak Prescott, QB1, with his first loss since signing his big mega contract a week ago today. We'll hear from him right after this. Dak Prescott, 27 of 39 passing. He did have a passing touchdown to CeeDee Lamb from 65 yards out, but he threw 2 interceptions, his first 2 of the 2024 season. Here's QB1 at the podium.
It's hard to say that we're pressing, but obviously you're trying to play complementary football when your defense is struggling to stop a group. You want to do your part and score touchdowns and come back, and we weren't able to score touchdowns. I mean, we were able to move the ball up and down the field, but we couldn't score touchdowns. So I can't say that we were pressing necessarily. Going from last week to this week, as I said, there were some things that we wanted to get better at. We got better at third down this week, but now it's the red zone that I think we scored some touchdowns. It makes the defense feel a little bit better, and it's a whole different feel within the game for both sides of the ball.
For the CD early in the first half, it looked like he was open in his zone. Was that a misconnection? Or
just miscommunication. Just completely miscommunication. Nothing more than that. We'll get it fixed. We'll get it cleaned up and make that.
Dak, Todd Archer, ESPN. Can you talk about the week-to-week nature of this league? Last week, you guys were riding a high in Cleveland, and then to have today. Is this just the way the league goes?
Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL. I talk about each and every week. No games are played on paper. As far as riding a high, I know I wasn't personally. I don't think the guys in the locker room necessarily were. I mean, I talked about how much meat we left on the bone offensively, and that's simply why you can't listen to other people's opinions and read what you guys write respectfully. I mean, yeah, y'all may have put this team on a high more than we should have been, and now we just simply have got to reset. We've got to respond. We're not going undefeated. I mean, hadn't been done in 50 years. Woo, surprise. So it's about getting back to it and finding a way to respond to put the best team on the field next week.
You can catch all of Dak Prescott's postgame press conference on DallasCowboys.com. Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. Isaiah, pregame you said Dallas, in order to keep pace with New Orleans, needed to score on 70% of their drives. They didn't end up doing that, but early they scored on 5 of their first 6, except 4 of those 5 scores were field goals. I mean, how do you finish drives if you're the Cowboys offense?
You have to figure it out. I mean, you mentioned it here. They only scored on 50% of those drives. Obviously, my number was 70. And 70% just allowed them to be able to be competitive against an outfit that was going to put up points. Now, do you expect that outfit to put out 40 points on your defense? Absolutely not. But in order to give your defense a fighting chance and to give them a little bolt of confidence, they need to see that you're scoring points too, because this is a relationship. Offense and defense is a give and take, right? As you come off the field, I give you a high five, I go do my job. But if I'm coming off the field from doing my job and I have no confidence that you're going to go out there and give us a chance by giving us a buffer, by scoring some points, scoring touchdowns, then all of a sudden this relationship just isn't necessarily working for me. So you have a 3-party relationship and only one party doing their job. That unit today was the special teams.
Once they got up by 14, that's the mentality of most teams. I'm going to give you 3. I'll score 3, and we'll just stay at 14. So once they got up by 14 points, we kept sitting in this room saying they need a touchdown. They went up by 21. They need a touchdown. You cannot score 3 against a team of that nature, especially as creative as they was in moving around our defense.
Yeah, just looking at the drive chart for Dallas, field goal, touchdown, interception, and then field goal, and that was to start the going into the start of the second half. Then it was turnover on downs, interception, turnover on downs, punt. So you weren't able to finish drives early, and then you weren't able to even get down the field late, and that's going to be a recipe for disaster no matter what the opposing team is going to do on their offensive end, especially when their drives are touchdown, and then finally an interception in the second half. When we come back, let's hear from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones after the loss, 44-19 to New Orleans. It's always interesting hearing from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, but it's a little extra interesting to hear it following a Cowboys loss. What did he feel like went wrong in the 44-19 downing by the New Orleans Saints? Let's hear from Jerry out at AT&T Stadium.
The thing that got my attention the most, they did seemingly pulled off our linebackers and were able to not get the inside pursuit. And with that, I'd say that in a nutshell. But that's not really what this is about. What this is about is this is early. The big lesson here is you can get to thinking you've got it figured out way too early in the game. We're 1-1, and we've got to learn, and this group right here has got to learn what they experienced out there today.
With the talent you have on defense, are you surprised that they weren't able to get after Derek Carr more than they did?
Well, I think that he was throwing the ball quick, but he had the benefit of against us today of a heck of a running game. When you can run the ball like he was running the ball, then you can, especially if you're releasing that ball quick, you can have an effective passing game. So the whole thing was working good, and it wasn't just for a quarter. It worked that way out there for several quarters. So extraordinarily disappointed for our fans. We will correct this. We will improve from where we played out there today.
Jerry, the defense, in particular the run defense, has been a problem for recent years. Why are you not concerned about it at this point?
Well, I didn't say I wasn't concerned about the defense at all. We're all want to play better on defense than we played out there today. But we've got some players out there that can make a better account than you saw out there today. So we've got a lot of work to do.
After last week's performance, just how baffling is this kind of performance, though, when you guys dominate against Cleveland and then come out and play like you did today?
Well, it's easy for me to say, this is the NFL. Everybody's got outstanding players. They certainly put this offense in this year, I think, down there. This is new for them, and they executed it well against us, and we didn't respond. We've got to do that, and we've got a long way to go here for the season, but more importantly, we're trying to put a team together that can be there when we're back out here after Christmas.
So Jerry Jones talking about it a little bit there, saying that the Saints have made some adjustments in order to make their players successful. A lot of those guys from New Orleans were playing in New Orleans last year, but now you turn things around with a different coordinator. They have a little more success. Is it the other way around for the Cowboys right now? Does it turn into roster acquisition, trying to find some firepower maybe in the run game, trying to add some more depth defensively? Where do you start with trying to bolster this roster as we move forward?
Well, there's two areas on each side of the ball that, I would look at and say, man, you might need to improve a little bit in that. And that's, one, the running back room. You're talking about offensively. There's just not a lot of juice out there. Nate talked about it earlier in the last segment. When you have those one-on-one opportunities in the open field, you got to make at least one guy miss. You got to be able to get those yardage when you have that opportunity. And defensively, I got to look at that interior defensive line. I know you brought some veterans in here, some older veterans to help with that interior defensive line, but they haven't really been able to get the job done. Last week you saw what happened in Cleveland. They were able to stuff that running attack, but out here giving up 190 yards to the Saints, I just think there's something that they need to fix in there when you talk about the interior defensive line and the running back room. You got to get more explosive.
Yeah, the explosive is the word for me. I just think that offensively, you have to have somebody that's just as great of a threat, or at least somewhat closer to a threat than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb can't be your only guy, because right now, today, with Ferguson missing, that's what it felt like. It felt like either CeeDee Lamb's going to make the play, or hopefully we can just move the chains. And that's not a game plan that you can necessarily have, especially in this NFC. There's just too much firepower, too many guys. That's one of the reasons why the defense struggled with the Saints today. It's because you didn't know where the next play was going to come from. You didn't know if it was going to be Alvin Kamara. You didn't know if it was going to be Rashid Shaheed. You didn't know if it was going to be Chris Olave. You have so many weapons that you have to worry about. And as much of a weapon as Brandon Cooks is for this team, could be, he hasn't been utilized like that since he's touched ground here in Dallas as of last year. So they have to find a way to get him involved. They have to find a way to get Deuce Vaughn out into space and not just running behind the tackles. But they have to find some explosion and something that's going to be a threat to defenses.
And I think that's kind of the number one thing. Take something and learn from it, because whenever you've got a Saints offense that's so balanced that it's scary, then you've got a Cowboys team. Teams know Dallas is struggling to run the football. So they're going to sell out to stop the pass. They're going to sell out to try and cover CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Dak Prescott, and his passing caliber. No matter how good of a game he has, they're still going to try and take away the pass, and it's going to challenge this passing game. But lots to talk about on the offensive side of the football. But when we come back, we flip to the defense. The linebackers were the stars of Week 1 in the win over Cleveland. Not so much against New Orleans in Week 2. For the second straight week, veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks leads the Cowboys defense in tackles. Last week, he was tied with DeMarvion Overshown with 9. This week, he led the team with 8 combined tackles, but it was a different challenge for Dallas defensively this week. Let's hear from the vet.
Yeah, for sure humbling. can't give up, big plays and start the game off like that. Get us on our heels. Got to come out faster. Obviously we got to stop the run later in the game, but I think we all played a part on it on defense. So it's a good piece of humble pie for sure.
Is there anything you can point your finger at in terms of trying to stop them when they don't want to do today?
I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like the first quarter and stuff like that, we were coming with it. Obviously, they put up some points early on some big plays, and we all could have done better on that. But at the same time, late in the quarter, we got to put up a stand as defense. As soon as we come in at halftime and we know what the situation is, we gotta buck up and do better than what we did today. So like I said, we're all wearing a piece of that of what happened on today, and like that's not what we want.
You were very complimentary of Alvin Kamara earlier this week. What makes him so hard to stop in the field? What does it feel like?
Obviously he takes the speed to the edge. At times keeps you honest. Even when the fit is telling you to fit backside, he'll just press it front side, and even when the fit is going front side, he'll cut it back. So he kind of he's keeping his depth back there, and he's kind of pressing on the line of scrimmage, making those cuts that we've seen him make. And at the end of the day, we gotta play football on the back end and get him stopped.
Is there anything surprising?
Yeah, when it's like this, we got to feel this for the next 24 hours for sure. I feel like, you look around the locker room, you can sense it. Everyone's, obviously disappointed. We didn't want that, especially at our home opener. But, the NFL will humble you like that. And this isn't the first time, I've been a part of that. But we got to make a stand. We got to come back to work tomorrow. Obviously let it hurt for a little bit. I think that's a good thing. And then, put it in our rear view and work towards the next.
Anything surprising that you saw from them that you didn't plan for?
No, not really. No, I can't.
What was the message to you guys?
Buck up, you know what I mean? Like someone make a play, if we need motivation at halftime when we're getting beat like that, we're in the wrong sport. So we gotta all take onus and get back to it, man.
You played against Alvin Kamara on Christmas a few years ago when he had 6 touchdowns. How was today?
Yeah, I have no comment on that one.
So there's Eric Kendricks following the 44-19 loss. Back with Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans. Gentlemen, when it comes to this defense and the linebackers, the praise was there last week, and you heard Eric Kendricks talk about the 24-hour rule. How important is that both ways for the Cowboys? Not getting too high after a win like they had in Week 1, so that way it results in a performance like they had in Week 2.
Yeah, you can't get too high on the W's, and then you can't get too low on the lows. When you look at it, these guys are going to go in the film room and break things down. But the biggest thing I saw, the difference between last week and this week, was last week those guys were scot-free. They didn't have the offensive linemen getting up to that second level. They were able to go sideline to sideline and use that speed and attack the ball carriers. This week, what you saw from the Saints was they were able to get to that second level. They were able to get in front of Kendricks, get in front of Overshawn, get in front of those guys and force them to battle with them before they were able to get to the running back. And we saw Kamara just have a big afternoon after that.
Yeah, not only that, but one of the things about going sideline to sideline in this game versus last game was this outfit just happened to be a little bit faster offensively. So when you were trying to go sideline to sideline, these guys were just faster to the edge, and that's why you're allowing Alvin Kamara to get to the outside. That's why you're allowing Rashid Shaheed to get to the outside. And then what happens? Now, all of a sudden, I have to beat them to the sideline, and then they're like, ski skirt. I'm going to go ahead and cut up inside, and now I'm using my speed to get vertical instead of going sideways.
What was that?
A ski skirt. You got a ski skirt. Yeah, you have them guessing the whole time. Dallas was just off kilter the entire day.
I heard Eric Kendricks actually talk about the ski skirt.
Yeah, you heard that in the interview.
Yeah, in the interview he talked about it. He was saying front side. He was going like the rear side. Doesn't matter either way. No, what he really
ski
meant
skirt.
was ski skirt.
Ski skirt.
That's what it was.
Yeah, you got to write it down.
CeeDee Lamb knows a thing or two about that as well, and he didn't have it in the second half. He had it in the first half, 4 receptions for 90 yards, but he was held in check in the second half. What happened to CeeDee Lamb? We'll hear from him right after this.
Closed captioning is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
The Cowboys had CeeDee Lamb targeted 7 times in the loss against the New Orleans Saints. He had 4 receptions for 90 yards in the first half. Everything looked to be headed in the right direction for CeeDee, but he was held without a catch in the second half. Here's CeeDee Lamb following the loss.
It was tough. Obviously, they got the better end of us. They played a better game than we did. They finished better than we did. And personally, it sucks to intake, but realistically, you just got to take it and you need to move on and obviously grow from it and become a better team by next week. We're still growing. We still have a lot to prove. Obviously, we only had like 19 points, and then last week I think we only scored once. So I want to say we had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. That's unacceptable. And I think the guys can also vouch for that. And we got to be better.
How much more difficult is it for you guys to go down early for the offense and complete that catch-up?
We got to play complementary football. So if the defense give up a touchdown, we got to have that same flexibility to go out there and go score, to match their intensity, match their efforts. A football game broke out, obviously, in my opinion, but we didn't answer the call. I feel like we could have done a lot more as far as physicality and overall just playing better. But we got some things to clean up.
We got a ball down in the red zone each of the first 2 games. Maybe some of that is, with the lack of preseason revenue, still working some of the kinks out for wide side.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't even blame it on the preseason. I wouldn't blame it on anything. We just got to execute.
What was Dak saying to you about the time after those missed opportunities?
Say that again?
What was Dak saying to you about the times after those missed opportunities?
Because we left some plays out there, obviously, and then we got lucky with the flags, which didn't count. It kind of counter-offered, but we definitely, us together, we need to make most of those opportunities. Myself, I feel like I got to be better for the team, obviously. I left some plays out there that could have changed the game personally, I feel like, and I'm still working on it.
What are you attributing?
So CeeDee Lamb, of course, frustrated following the loss, and you can tell the frustration's building offensively. He mentioned it there, 3 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. They had a rushing score last week with Ezekiel Elliott. You had the Cooks touchdown, and then this week it was only the 65-yard bomb to CeeDee Lamb. So, Barry, I'll start with you. Is that just a lack of separation, a lack of creativity from a play-calling standpoint? What needs to be better offensively?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. When you look at it, CeeDee Lamb, he's going to get his touches. He's going to get his targets, his yards. He's going to eat. But it came down to something Isaiah said a little bit ago, is the rest of these guys out there, they got to find ways to affect the game. They got to be able to go out there and win their one-on-ones. Defenses are going to put all their resources towards shutting down CeeDee Lamb. You saw on multiple 3rd downs out there, they were bracket covering him and making sure the rest of the guys had to get one-on-ones. And we saw Tolbert win his one-on-one opportunity deep on that 3rd down later on in the game, but it's just one too many. I mean, or one too less. You got to go out there, and they've got to be able to win their one-on-ones. I'm talking about the tight ends. I'm talking about those other receivers, Cooks, Tolbert, Zeke out of the backfield, the running backs out of the backfield. They all got to be able to win those one-on-ones because everybody's going to put their defensive pressure towards CD. To me, the rest of this team has got to step up.
I agree 100%. I mean, it was a difference with Ferguson not out there running the seam, taking care of the middle of the field. Now you got CeeDee Lamb. Like you said earlier, Isaiah, it's CeeDee Lamb or no one. I think we got to put our running backs in a little bit better position, and once we do that right there, I think we start taking steps forward.
Creativity. To everything that you guys just said in terms of getting other guys involved, but I think, Coach McCarthy might have to get in his bag a little bit earlier than he intended to because you need to see Deuce Vaughn get lined up in the slot. You need to see Devontae Turpin lined up in the slot. You need to see these guys doing in-the-round sweep motions, just keeping guys off kilter. Kind of like what you saw today from the Saints offense, how they kept guys going across the formation and your defense didn't know where to go.
Now, it hasn't been done in a couple of years, but the Cowboys have added talent, especially from a skills position standpoint, in the past, most notably the Amari Cooper trade halfway through the season in 2018. Is this skill set from a running back and a wide receiver and a tight end group, is this the set in stone, what we're going to see when the season comes to an end in December and January?
I'm not sure. I mean, this front office, you never know what they're thinking, right? They always do a relatively good job of putting themselves in a position to be successful throughout the year. And if we're able to identify that they don't have enough explosion and enough big plays offensively and enough speed, call it what it is, enough speed, right? Devontae Turpin's not lining up enough at receiver, and he's really not trusted enough at receiver yet to have any kind of impact defensively. Then they might have to try to bring somebody in here that can go ahead and take the top off of the defense because you have to find ways to free up CD underneath.
Well, there were weapons on the New Orleans side. There was a stout defense. What do you get in Week 3 at AT&T Stadium? An opponent with some weapons on offense with Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, and one of the best defenses in football. Baltimore comes to town. What to expect from the Ravens when we come back.
The Cowboys OT was brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys. And by Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com.
44-19 as the home opener for the Dallas Cowboys does not go to plan. New Orleans spoils the party in Arlington. Cowboys get an opportunity next week with the Baltimore Ravens coming to town to try and turn things around at home. Back here to wrap up Cowboys OT. We got Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, a trio of former Cowboys. I'm Kyle Youmans. Looking ahead, it doesn't look great after the performance today, but the Cowboys have been very good under Mike McCarthy of rebounding following a loss. How do they do so whenever Baltimore brings their weaponry to town next week?
Well, defensively, I mean, one, you got to stop the explosive plays. I mean, we understand what Baltimore brings to the table as far as explosivity. You got that quarterback in Lamar Jackson out there, last year's MVP. The running attack that they're going to present to this Dallas defense is going to be outstanding. I mean, you got the quarterback run, you got the in-between run with the running backs out there, and they love to do their running backs with the wide receiver reverses as well. So to me, you got to stop this explosive plays, and you got to get a handle on this run defense, or they'll run you out of the gym.
I agree. The run defensively, you got to stop the run. Bottom line, offensively, we got to find ways to use our backs in a better way.
They have to be more physical than they were today. Because, you know, this is not a regular Baltimore team. This is an 0-2 Baltimore team that is coming into AT&T Stadium. And they're not going to be the happiest of campers. And we know that Coach Harbaugh is a heck of a coach out there. And there's also a running back, Derrick Henry. I remember Derrick Henry was a free agent this offseason, right? And the word is the Dallas Cowboys did not put an offer on the table. So he might have a little bit of chip on his shoulder as well.
That's part of being the Cowboys is there's going to be a target on your back no matter what week it is. But it always just feels like there's a little bit extra whenever there's something like that on the table, especially when Dallas is struggling to run the football in their own right. Derrick Henry hasn't struggled to run the football just yet, neither has Lamar Jackson. From a mobile quarterback standpoint, Barry, you faced a couple of those guys back in your day. How much of a test is that going to be for this defense?
I mean, it's the ultimate test because you can go out there and you can cover as great as you want. So you can have these wide receivers and tight ends locked up. Your defensive line could be putting great pressure on you or pressure on that quarterback. But if he can find a little sliver, a little crack and jump through there, then it's wide open from there. And you're talking about one of the fastest players in the National Football League in Lamar Jackson. So to me, it becomes super hard because he has that arm as well that he can fit dimes in there on your secondary as well. So no matter how great you cover, no matter how great you stay in your rush lanes, that guy can find a sliver and he can make explosive plays happen.
You know what, fella? I'm just going to be honest with you. I sure wish you was going to the stadium. This game is here, right?
Yeah, it's here.
I sure wish you was going because I want to see him live. I want to see him live. He's a great guy. He's
Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it. It'll be a 3:25 kick next week at AT&T Stadium. Pregame live with these three. Myself, Nicole Hutcherson, and Nick Eatman will go live at 2 p.m. Central Time on DallasCowboys.com. Hope you had some fun with us today. It wasn't necessarily a fun day for the Dallas Cowboys. 44-19, the final score. New Orleans wins it in Week 2. We'll see you next week with more Cowboys OT.